How's it going, Rogues Gallery, and welcome! New Shadowverse Evolve set means a new deck tech deep dive, this time going into 11 Shadowverse Evolve decks. All for the IDOLMASTER Cinderella Girls collaboration meta. This is actually pretty interesting because this is, as you can see, a brand new collaboration set, and with it comes brand new collaboration decks, but also other cards that you could use for your existing decks. So in this video, we have 3 IDOLMASTER specific decks that use only cards from the IDOLMASTER set, one of which is, oh, I really like the deck. It's really spicy. And then we also have a bunch of other decks of at least one of every single other craft in the entire game, with a couple of them doubling up. I have 2 of a couple of the classes that I have upgraded with IDOLMASTER cards. I also want to note that there are 2 honorable mentions that we'll show at the end, so there's technically like 13 decks. But there's 2 that I just never updated because IDOLMASTER just didn't have anything for them. And we'll kind of give them an honorable mention. They'll show up later in Shadowverse Evolve history because they do get stuff eventually, and I'm leaving the decks, built because I really like them. But I just wanted to mention that. So we got 11 to 13 decks, depending on how you want to shake it. We have timestamps in the description down below, so if you want to see any specific deck, you can, jump to the timestamps. And we also have deck lists as well next to those timestamps, so you can kind of follow along as we talk about the decks. So without further ado, let's get on with the 11 deck deep dive for the IDOLMASTER Cinderella Girls meta. Let's do it. All right, let's start it off with what's widely considered to be one of the best decks in the entire game right now. This is the IDOLMASTER Cool deck. In fact, the Cool starter deck can be upgraded into this deck with minimal effort. It's really easy to build and really strong. And as you can see here, I haven't had the time to, fit it with really fancy sleeves. I'm still getting the fancy sleeves. We got one of the IDOLMASTER decks in a fancy box and sleeves. The other 2, I'm working on it. So let's talk about this one, because I know a lot of folks are going to want to see this one. So we have our leader here, which is Rin Shibuya, one of my favorite characters, just an IDOLMASTER. I have a figure of her. She's great. We also just have the 5 IDOLMASTER magical items. They can be any magical item. They all do the same thing. I just use the starter deck cool earrings for this one. You'll see what I do for the other ones, but yeah. And if you don't know, really, we're not going to go super in-depth onto this, but I just want to mention specifically for IDOLMASTER some of the mechanics because it's brand new and you might not know. So the first thing is, since it's a collab set, your deck can be any class and you can mix them as much as you'd like, as long as every single one of the cards has this IDOLMASTER trait down here, right? So Karen Hojo here says IMAS CG, IDOLMASTER Cinderella Girls. Cool, so as long as every single card in the deck has IDOLMASTER on the bottom, IMAS CG, you can mix and match. So you can see here we have Sword and Forest and Haven, but they're all IDOLMASTER, so you can mix and match. It's just like the UMA set. I know in a previous video some people were a little bit confused about that. Also, if all of your deck is IDOLMASTER, then you start the game with 5 magical items in your EX area. So you just get these at the start of your game. They are all spells that cost 4, heal for 1, and draw a card. But more importantly, we want to use our powerful lesson effects. We're basically going to be using these to cash in as resources for our powerful lesson effects. So for example, Karen here has a lesson effect of paying 3 play points. Lesson 1, give each follower on your field +1 attack, which is very good. And lesson 1 means you just take one of these from your EX area, and then you just get rid of it. You banish it. So, yep, that's what you do. So, without further ado, with all the mechanics a little bit out of the way, let's start talking about this particular deck. We're going to try to be quick. Don't look at the time. Don't look at the time down below. All right, so we have our Evo deck, and we have our main deck. So let's kind of go over look at these awesome sleeves. Let's go over the main deck. We're going to be pretty quick about it. So the Cool deck is essentially a very powerful aggro deck that makes use of cards like Rin Shibuya. She's really, really good, as well as the other two legendary cards that come in the cool starter deck. Karen, as well as, where's our big drop? She's... Why can't I find her? Here she is. We have Now Kamiya. And all three of these are just really, really strong, and they work very well with Fumika here, which is another character that I have a figure of. She's absolutely beautiful. So anyway, we also have this package at the end we'll talk about. So not every single card in this deck is cool. We also running Uzuki here, who has the cute subtype, as well as Mio Honda here that has the passion subtype. But this is its own little package in of itself, and we'll talk about this one at the end. So essentially, we're just going to be jamming out a bunch of really, really aggressive followers and just trying to burn our opponent down. We have ways of just filling up our board out of nowhere, and I think that's one of IDOLMASTER's biggest strengths. Filling up your board, giving your stuff Storm, and just smashing your opponent for a ton of damage. And like I mentioned, the cool deck as well as the cute deck we're going to show off next are really, really easy to build because, you know, you just put the starter deck and you upgrade it from there. So Karen Hojo is a 1-drop 3/2, really, really powerful stats, just in general. And then she also has an ability where at the start of your end phase, if there's no other cool followers on your field, she takes 1 damage, which is totally fine. We have a lot of cool followers. And like I mentioned earlier, you can pay 3 and lessen 1, which means banish one of your magical items. Then all of your followers get +1, which is great. Give each follower on your field +1 attack, including her. Very strong. We're going to be playing this card a lot and tutoring for her with other effects. Here we have Honoka Ayase. She's just a 1-drop 2/1. On Fanfare, you can select an IDOLMASTER follow on your field and give it Rush. Just a nice little way to help clear off the board. We're just running a single copy of her. She's pretty effective early on. If you just need a 1-drop, hey look, you have a 1-drop. But also you can double up. You know, maybe play a Kako here or something like that, and then play your Honoka to give this one Rush. So it's a nice little card. We also have, it's also pretty good when you want to tutor for it with some other effects. We'll talk about that later as well. We have our first Evo follower. This is Kako Takafuji. She's a 1-drop 2/2, pretty good stats, and you can Evo her for 2. And let's go find our, I believe we just want our single Kako. So she becomes a 3/3, and on evolve you can pay an additional 3, select an enemy leader and deal it 3 damage. So this is just a nice way to push some extra damage. We don't want to evolve her all that much, mostly when we can, you know, cash in the extra 3 play points to deal 3 points of damage. So total, this is 6 play points for 3/3 that also deals 3 damage, or you can kind of like, you know, have that happen over the course of a couple turns if your opponent doesn't deal with it. Or she's just a really good 1-drop 2/2. Which is really, really nice. Like I said, aggressive deck. Next up we have Yukimi Sajo. She's a 2-drop 2/2. You can Evo her for 1, and you can Fanfare lessen her for 1 lesson. So 2 play points and you lessen 1. Give this follower +1/+1. It says it here in the little flavor text, or in the reminder text. To perform lesson 1, banish a magical item from your EX area. And then she becomes a 2/2. This one is one that we do want to Evo quite a bit, and we are running a full 3 of. So we basically want to Evo this every single time we play her. She becomes a 3/3, and on evolve, you select another cool fall on your field and give it +1 attack, rush, and a sell, which is really, really good. Really, really nice to just help fit, you know, kill off your opponent's board. And then you also have a 3/3, and then another thing that also got +1 and rush, and a sell. And then if you did the little pump, then she'd be a 4/4. So she's really, really good. She's quite strong, which is why we run a 3 of in the deck. This is a starter deck card, by the way. Next up, we have Chizuru. She's a 2-drop 2/3, good stats. Fanfare, select another cool fall on your field and give it +1 attack. Last words, select another cool fall on your field and give it +1 attack. So just really efficient. Just like I said, 2-drop 2/3, pretty solid. It also pumps your board. Really good. Like I said, everything in this deck is all about like pumping your dudes and swinging in for damage. Next up, we have Now Kamiya. There's a different version than the other Now, but still a very good one. This is another 2-drop 2/3. Fanfare, if there's at least 3 IDOLMASTER cards on your field, select an enemy follower on the field and deal it 2 damage. Really, really good. This is another card that we sometimes will go tutor up with some other effects. Just really, really solid. 2-drop 2/3 that also can potentially kill something is really, really good. The IDOLMASTER is really good. We have Kanade Hayami. We got there. Hayami. 3-drop 3/3 with no abilities, except you can Evo her for 1. Running a full playset of these, and what do we get when we Evo her? Well, it's another one of those cards that you get a really, really nice Evo effect. So we're running 2 of them in the deck. She becomes a 4/4, and on evolve, you lessen 2, so it doesn't cost any extra play points or anything, you just lessen 2, select an enemy from the field, and deal it 4 damage. So for 4 play points, you play for 3, Evo for 1. For 4 play points, you basically get 8 points of damage, which is crazy, because you get herself, she's a 4/4, and then she also deals 4 points of damage. So quite good. She's actually very, very strong. Next up we have one of the best cards in the entire deck. This is a starter deck card, Rin Shibuya. She's my favorite character in IDOLMASTER. This card is insane. So she's a 3-drop 3/3 with Storm, already very, very good, with more abilities. It says, Fanfare, if there's at least 3 cool followers in your field, select another follower with 3 attack or less and give it Storm. Okay? And then you can also pay 1 and lessen 1 to give this follower +1 attack, but you can only activate this once per turn. This is insane. She does so much damage. My girl just absolutely just kills people dead. She is so good, especially combined with Fumika here. We'll talk about Fumika when we get to the end of this, but it's very, very strong. There's very good, there's a lot of plays where you can get Rin as well as like Karen, both on the field at the same time. Rin will give Karen Storm, and then Karen can do the pace 3 lessen, pump up both of them. It's just like, you can deal an absurd amount of damage with this deck just kind of out of nowhere, which is why it's one of the best decks in the entire game. Next up we have Yasuha Okazaki. She is a 4-drop 4/4. On Fanfare, you can search your deck for a cool follower with cost 2 or less, summon it, then shuffle your deck. So this is one of the ways we can go tutor for a follower and immediately put it into play. We also have Fumika here. These both are insanely powerful cards and really helps fuel what this deck is doing. So any of the cool 2-drops is what we want to look at. So we can go get Now, and she can also deal damage. We can go get Chizuru, because she can like pump up stuff. We can go get Yukimi, because she can give stuff Rush. You can even grab any of these 1-drops if you so desire. So yeah, Yasuha is just really, really good. And yeah, one of the best cards in the deck as well. Next up, we have another one of my favorite IDOLMASTER characters, Ranko Kanzaki. I really like her. She's, like I said, one of my favorite characters, just in IDOLMASTER in general. So she is a 4-drop 3/3. I also run this. You'll see this card a lot more. I run this in my Abyss decks as well. 4-drop 3/3. You can Evo her for 1. On Fanfare, select an enemy fall in the field and just deal 2 damage. So unconditional, Fanfare, deal 2 damage. You can pay 1 and lessen 2 and select up to 2 enemy followers and deal them each 2 damage. So she can deal 6 damage split across 3 different targets right when you play her. She's kind of cracked. And then when you Evo her, she basically draws you a card. So she becomes a 4/4, and she says, on evolve, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You can put one of them in your EX area, and then you bury the rest. She's super good in Abyss decks. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but she still has that same lessen effect. In the Abyss decks, you don't get the lessen effect, but her other effects are just so good that you're still going to be happy running them in the Abyss deck. So we're running 2 Ranko in the main, and then 1 for the Evo. Next up, we have Now Kamiya, another really, really powerful card. She's a 5-drop 3/3, and on Fanfare, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. From among them, you can summon 2 cool followers with a total cost of 4 or less, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So you get 2 with cost 4 or less, and you know what that is? Hey, look, you can go get your Rin Shibuya as well as your Karen Hojo or any other combination. This is a very, very likely chance to hit and get something good, and she's just great. So she's not just a 5-drop 3/3. She's a 5-drop 3/3 plus some friends, which is why this deck is so powerful. Out of nowhere, if your opponent board wipes, there's a lot of cards in this deck that just like you play and then they just spit out a bunch of buddies, and this is one of them. It's like this, Fumika as well as Yasuha. Like they just like, you play it and you just get a bunch of value. Super powerful. Also another starter deck card. Most of these are from the starter deck. I think the only card in here that's like I would consider like expensive at all would be Ranko. And we're just running 2 of her. Next up we have Fumika. This card is insanely powerful, and once again you'll see her in our dragon decks because she's just so good. She's a 7-drop 4/4, not great stats, but you get a lot more than that. Fanfare, search your deck for a 3-cost follower and a 1-cost follower. summon them, then shuffle your deck. Whenever another Idolmaster card follower is put onto your field, select an enemy follower on the field and deal it 2 damage. This is insane. Okay, so what you do is you play your Fumika, and then you just go get whatever you want. So you can this is the easiest thing. You're going to be getting Rin and Karen a lot. But hey, look, here's a 3-drop follower and a 1-drop follower. So just for 7, you get all 3 of these. And then also, whenever another Idolmaster card is put onto your field, select an enemy follower and deal 4 damage. So you get all of these, or deal 2 damage for a total of 4. So you get 2 of these, you deal 2 damage and then 2 damage. Then Rin Shibuya gives Karen Storm, because Karen is a, we have at least 3 cool followers. By the way, Fumika is a cool follower. And so since we have at least 3 cool followers, we can give Karen Storm. And then if we have any extra play points, we can either pump Shibuya, or we could pump Rin, and then we can pump, use Karen's effect, and pump all of them. It's insane. This is just like, this card is like, deal 4 damage and Storm 6. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, this is very good. This is just a gold card. Very, very powerful. This is kind of what makes this deck really, really work. And it's scary. It's very strong. Yeah. Don't underestimate the idols. They will absolutely destroy you. And finally, we have this Friends package is what I'm going to call it. This is the buddy squad here. These all synergize with each other and kind of with some other cards that we have going on. So let's talk about this one and keep some of these cards in mind for something like Fumika, who can just go get any Idolmaster card that's a 3-drop and a 1-drop. So we can go get our Uzuki here. All right, so we have another version of Rin Shibuya. She is a 4-drop 4/4 with Ward on Fanfare. If there's another follower named Uzuki Shimamura, which, hey look, here's Uzuki Shimamura. In its name on our field, we can select an enemy follower and deal it 5 damage. And then also on Fanfare, if there's a follower named Mio Honda, hey look, here's Mio Honda. Then we can deal 5 damage to the enemy leader. So if you have both, you do 5 damage to an enemy follower and then 5 to a leader. So pretty good. We're running 2 in the deck, and like I said, she's my favorite character, so very happy to run more Rin Shibuya. And then we also have Uzuki. This card's really, really strong, and we'll see her in other decks as well. So this is a 3-drop 3/3, Evo for 1, Lesson 1, Heal for 1. So we give our leader +1 defense, which is basically healing. So pretty good. But more importantly, so we're running 3 here. More importantly, for the Evo deck, we always want to Evo them. We're running a full Evo, full 3 of Uzuki, because she is kind of cracked. So when she evolves, she becomes a 4/4, and on evolve, you can search your deck for a follower with Rin Shibuya or Mio Honda in its name, put it in our EX area, shuffle our deck, and then it costs 2 less to play this turn. And why is that good? Well, it goes and gets our Rin Shibuya. Or it can get our other Rin Shibuya, who is also insanely good, and that she costs 2 less, so she'd only cost 1. This Rin would cost 2, but we have a bunch of targets for it, which is just super, super good. Or if you want to go and grab Mio Honda here. So yeah, she's just another card that lets us go search our deck for something. Doesn't immediately play it for free, but kind of helps and just makes the cost reduction. So yeah, it's really good. You always play this and immediately evolve her. She's really good. And then the final card is just a nice little aggro. This is a 2-drop 2/1 Mio Honda Storm. Strike if there's a follower named Uzuki in its name on your field, give this follower +1 defense. And if there's a Rin Shibuya on your field, give this follower +1 attack, and it has Storm. Notable, this is a Passion type, and then Uzuki is a Cute type, so they're the only non-cool followers in the deck. So just keep that in mind. The other Rin is a cool follower, and every other card's cool. So just keep this in mind in terms of like deck synergy and all that kind of stuff, what you can go search up. So notably, you cannot go get Mio Honda with Yasuha here, because she can only go get cool followers. But they do get pumped up through other effects like Karen here, just giving all of your followers +1 attack and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, that's the cool deck. This deck is wild. It's actually just kind of cracked, and likely one of the absolute best decks in the entire game. So without further ado, let's get on to another one of the Idolmaster decks. Next up, we have the Cute deck. I actually really like this deck, and if I didn't mention it already, I actually really like all three of the IDOLMASTER decks. They are really strong and really fun. So yeah, this one is Uzuki Shimamura. This one is the Cute deck. This is an insanely easy deck to build because it's even easier to upgrade the Cute starter deck into this version than it is to upgrade the Cool starter deck into this one. They're both quite easy to build and pretty cheap for what you get, and what you get is some of the best decks in the entire game. This one is also one of the best decks in the entire game. So yes, we have our Cute deck with Uzuki. She's also very cute, and I also have a figure of her because she's excellent. These are our Cute earrings. Those are just the magical items of our choice. We have our evolution points, and then we have the deck. Once again, this one is just kind of like, I'm waiting to get some oversleeves and some other character sleeves just to kind of like fill this deck out and kind of like complete it in my eyes. So let's talk about the actual deck itself. This deck is not as aggressive as the previous deck. In fact, this deck is kind of a more mid-range deck that has a lot of reanimation potential. So whereas the Cool deck can go search your deck for stuff and just like plop them into play, this deck can get stuff back from your graveyard, and it does a really good job of that as well. And you can push also an absurd amount of damage with Uzuki here. Uzuki is just absolutely wild and can just dunk on your opponents as well. So we'll talk about that when the time comes. Let's go over some of these cards. So we have Chika Yokoyama here. She's a 1-drop 2/2. Good stats. Fanfare. If there's at least 5 Cute followers in our cemetery, give this follower +1/+2 and ward. So you can see that this is a little bit more of a slow deck compared to the other one. And having a 1-drop 3/4 with ward is just really good. And it also tells you, hey, we care about our cemetery. Next up, we have a 3 of Miho Kohinata. I'm still learning Japanese, so I'm just working on it. So she's a 2-drop 2/2 Fanfare. Look at the top card of our deck. If it's a Cute card, you can reveal it and add it to your hand. Spoilers, unlike the Cute deck, or unlike the Cool deck, every single card in this deck is a Cool card. So you will 100% of the time do that. So this is a 2-drop 2/2 that draws you a card. And then if there are at least 3 Cute followers on your field, this follower also has Rush. So she's just great and replaces herself, and yeah, good card here. Next up, we are running a 3 of Momoka Sakurai. She's a 2-drop 2/2. She can Evo for 1, and she also has Fanfare for 2 play points, less than 1. Give her +1/+1. So you can give her a nice little boost. And then for the Evo version, here we go. We are running 2 of the Evo version. She becomes a 3/3. And it says, on Evolve, look at the top 3 cards of our deck. You can reveal a Cute card from among them, add it to your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So once again, that's just, we always hit, right? So you just go look at the top 3 cards of your deck, take any of them, put it in your hand, rest on the bottom of your deck. Just really good card selection. And that we really care about that in this deck because it's not exactly a combo deck, but we definitely want to get the very specific cards. Next up, we have Noriko Shina. She's a 2-drop 2/3. Good stats. Fanfare. If there's at least 3 IDOLMASTER followers on our field, she gets +1 and Rush. And on Strike, we heal our leader for 2, which is really good. So she's a 2-drop 3/3 Rush, essentially, if we have 3 IDOLMASTER cards on our field, followers on the field. Counts herself as well. And then also she heals when she hits. So yeah, good. Like I said, as opposed to the Cute or the Cool deck, the Cute deck is playing a little bit of a longer game, so we want to use our early turns instead of just being really aggressive, use our cards to set up for future turns or to control our opponent's board. Speaking of which, we have Miku Meikawa. We have one copy of her. We're also running her in our Forest deck as well. She's a 2-drop 3/1. And then on Strike, you select an enemy follower on your field and deal it 2 damage. Or enemy follower on the field and deal 2 damage. And then you can pay 1 and lessen 1 to give her Storm. So for 3 and a lessen 1, you can deal 3 Storm damage, and on Strike, deal 2 damage to an enemy follower. So she's pretty good. She's pretty good. We're just running a single copy of her. Next up, we have another Miho Kohinata. We're running 3 of this Miho. She's a 2-drop 2/2, and then Evo for 1. And then we'll go get go get the Miho. Yep, we're only running 2 here. So she becomes a 3/3 and on evolve, select an enemy fall on the field and deal it 2 damage. If there's at least 5 cute cards in our cemetery, deal it 3 damage. So for 3 play points, we get a 3/3 that can deal either 2 or 3 damage. Really good, really efficient. Running 2 in the Evo deck, and then 3 main deck. Next up we have Akiha Ikebukuro. She's a 3-drop, 3/3. She can Evo for 1, and then on Fanfare you select another cute follower on your field and you give it +1 health. Running 3 of her in the main. And then for the Evo, I do believe we're running we're just running 2. We're running 2 here. So she becomes a 4/4, and then on evolve, discard a cute card, select an enemy follower on the field, deal it 3 damage, and draw a card. She's kind of cracked. She's kind of cracked. So like, for 3 play points, you give another cute follower +1 health, then you get a 4/4, so for 4 play points total. You get a 4/4, and you discard a card and hit something for another 3, and then you draw a card. Really good. So yeah, running 3 here. Like I said, most of these cards, by the way, are from the starter deck. Like Akiha Ikebukuro, like this one's not, but a lot of these are from the starter deck. I think I swapped maybe like 10 or 15 cards. It was not very many. Next up, we have Mirei Hayasaka. There's another one that came in the starter deck, but I have a nice foil version. 3-drop, 4/3. Fanfare, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Put one of them on the top of your deck and bury the rest. You can kind of like set up the top of your deck a little bit. While there's at least 5 IDOLMASTER cards in your cemetery, she has Rush. So a little bit of deck manipulation, and she's also a 4/3 with Rush. It's very good. Once again, we're not storming, we're rushing to trade off our cards and kill our opponent's stuff. All right, here we go. The legendaries are really where this deck starts to cook, and you can see how like crazy strong it is. So here we have Kyoko Igarashi. She's a 4-drop, 4/4. She has a ward. Fanfare, select an enemy follower on the field and give it -1/-1 for each cute follower on our field, and we can lessen 1 to select an enemy follower on our field and give it -1/-1. Yeah, really good. You can only activate that once per turn, but she's just great at killing stuff. She's a big ward that also just kills stuff, and we're going to be able to just dump the board with cute followers with some of the other cards we're going to talk about. Here we have Akari Sujino. This card's really good. I run this in my Dragoncraft deck as well. She's Apple Girl. So 4-drop, 4/5 with ward. On Fanfare, you heal your leader for 3, and then if you have 10 max play points, you deal 3 damage to each enemy leader. So pretty good. And then also, whenever this follower takes 5 damage, increase your max play points by 1, which is also very, very good. So you can kind of ramp a little bit. And she's also just gums up the board. She's a 4/5 with ward for 4. She also heals you, running a full set of her. She's great. We also have Shiki Ichinoze, another one of my favorite characters. She's awesome. 5-drop, 2/5. You can Evo her for 2. Fanfare, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You can put one of them into your EX area, bury the rest, and then you can use her, discard a card, select an enemy follower on the field, and deal 5 damage, which is really, really good. So we're running 2 of her in the main, and then we also have an Evo of her as well. The Evo version is quite good. She becomes a 4/7, so she's very hard to kill. On evolve, select up to 1 card in our EX area. Deal damage equal to its cost to our leader. It costs 0 play points to play this turn, and then she still has the ability to discard a card and then shoot a follower for 5. So basically, she puts something into our EX area from her Fanfare effect, and then we can take damage equal to its cost and then play it basically for free, which is great if we want to play any of our really high drops here. Or you can play like a low drop or something. So she's quite good. Just have to be careful about your life. Next up, we have Hoagie Girl, Nene Kurihara. This is a really good card here. So this is a 5-drop, 3/4. She can Evo for 1. You definitely want to evolve her. She has a ward, and she has Fanfare, select an enemy fall on the field, and deal 3 damage. So at the baseline, she's a 3/4 with ward that deals something 3 damage. That's okay. We are running 3 of her in the main, but the real strength of this card comes from her Evo version, and her Evo version is a 4/5, still with ward, and on evolve, you pay 3 play points, select a cute follower in our cemetery, and summon it. So we're gonna need 8 play points, or 9 play points total to do this. So 5 plus the 1 to Evo, plus the 3 here. So 5, 6, and plus 3 is 9. But what do we get for our effects? Well, we get a card that lets us just reanimate one of our cute followers. And this is so good. She is so strong because we can reanimate Uzuki here. And why would we want to do that? Well, this card just is crazy. This card really, really makes the deck hum. So this is a 7-drop, 4/4. fanfare, select up to 1 cute follower that costs 4 or less, and up to 1 cute follower that costs 2 or less in your cemetery, summon them, and give them +1/+1. You can also lessen 1, give your leader +3 health. You can only activate this once per turn. And so what you do, this is wild, what you do is you can have Nene, you can Evo her, right? So you Evo Nene, and then you get your Uzuki back from your cemetery. So now you have Nene, and you have Uzuki, who is then also going to get 2 other cards from your cemetery. So you can go get a, it's a 4 or less, by the way, it is or less, not exact. So 4 or less, and a 2 or less. So you can go grab, I don't know, Akari if you want. You can go grab Kyoko if you want. These are both really, really great choices for the 4 or less. And then you can grab, we can get our Miho, our Chico. Basically what we do here is we just like, you know, say we want to heal some more. Say we're taking a lot of damage because we're playing against the cool deck and we just want to heal for more. So we'll get this 4-drop, and then we can go get a 3-drop or 2-drop or less. And so since we already evoed this turn, maybe when we want to grab something else, so we can maybe grab Noriko here, right? And so just for a single card, this card right here, Nene, just for just her, you can get this board, which is nuts. You have a 4/5, you have a 4/4, who can also heal you for 3 using the lessen ability, and then she will give +1/+1 to both of these followers that she puts into play. So now we have a 5/6 with ward that also heals us for 3, and then if we have 10 play points, she also will deal 3 damage to the enemy leader on her fanfare. And then we'll also have Noriko, which will be a 3/4 because you'll get the +1 from Uzuki. And then if there's at least 3 IDOLMASTER cards on her field, hey look, there is. Then she also gets +1/+1 and rush, and then we also heal for another 2 on strike. And so she's essentially a what is it, a 4/4. So she's a 4/4 with rush that heals for 2. And so with just this, we can heal 8, so 3 and 2, and then we just have this. I can't understand how nuts this is. I've done this a couple times, and it's crazy. This is not the only permutation too. If you need removal, you can go grab your Kyoko instead of your Akari. So you can go get Kyoko, and then she can fanfare, give something -4/-4, right? Because she counts the number of IDOLMASTER cards in your field. Instead of Noriko, I wouldn't grab any of the ones that have Evo effects for this kind of thing, just because we already Evo'd. But I don't know, you can go grab a Miho if you just want to draw some cards. You can grab this if you just want to have a big ward, or Miku is pretty good too, because you can get her, give her Storm. She'll have get +1/+1, so it'll be a 4-attack Storm that also has that strike effect. So yeah, this deck's really good. The IDOLMASTER decks are really good. This one is pretty resilient because what you want to do is you want to aggressively trade off your stuff in the early game, right? Because you don't care if it's in your cemetery, because we have cards like the beautiful Nene here, who's going to be able to get our cards back. So between Nene and Uzuki, it's just kind of cracked. So yeah, this deck is pretty sick. We have a couple other cards we have two cards specifically to talk about. We are running the 3 of Uzuki. Once again, starter deck cards. We also have Kyoko. I have her in my sword deck as well. She's very good. 7-drop, 6/7. Fanfare, heal our leader for 3 and draw 2 cards. There's a lot of healing in this deck. So this is how we don't die to cool. We do our best, to clean up their board, try to survive, and then when we hit, this like 8-9 play points, we just gain a bunch of life. So Kyoko, 7-drop, 6/7 with ward, fanfare, heal 3, draw 2, and then she can also Evo for 1. And then when she Evos, she basically just kills something dead. She becomes a 7/8 with ward, and you select 1 enemy follower on the field and engage or refresh it. So you can either engage it if you want to go kill it, or you can refresh it so it doesn't have ward. Or it'll still have ward, but it won't be defending anymore, so you can attack past it. And it says, during your turn, this follower doesn't take damage. So you can just attack into anything you want. And she's a 7/8, so she can kill almost anything in the game. So very, very good. I run more of her in my sword deck. And the last card we have is just a nice little removal that heals us. the Winter Night Prayer. It's just a 4-drop spell, quick. Select an enemy from the field, banish it, and if there's a cute follower on our field, we heal for 3. So once again, more healing, more removal. I really like this deck, like a lot more than I thought I would actually. I thought I was going to be all in on the cool deck because Rune is my favorite IDOLMASTER character, but I also like Uzuki, and this deck is like awesome. If you like the control style decks, if you like Reanimator style stuff, this deck is really good and really fun. I highly recommend it. So yeah, let's talk about our third and final IDOLMASTER deck before going into all of the other decks. All right, and our final IDOLMASTER deck of today is, well, it's not Passion, and that's just because I didn't have the cards to build out a Passion deck in addition to everything else. And also, this deck is awesome. I very much love this deck, and well, we're gonna show it off a little bit. This one is a new generations deck, and as you can see, I've kind of like, this is one of the IDOLMASTER decks I have currently sleeved out, and you know, I want to get the other two to this state. So here we have my fellow English ambassadors, Ignitius and Different Fight, as my Evo points for this deck, with really cute sleeves here. And then here is our mix of magical items, because it's going to represent a mix of all of the IDOLMASTER factions that we're going to be playing in this deck, because, well, this is like a mixed deck. So we have our Aiko Takamori, beautiful, that I got in my case. And then we have our Evo deck. As you can see, this one's a little tricked out. This one's a little tricked out. And of course, the New Generation. So for the sleeves, I'm rocking the New Generations sleeves. And then for the Evo deck, we have the same cute sleeves that I picked up at the Cygames booth at Anime Expo. All right. So this deck is all about New Generations, and it's super fun, and I love it. I love it so much. It is not like the other two decks. It is this mix of cute, cool, and passion, and I think it's just great. So it all revolves around this card, New Generations, which is a 10-drop follower that's a 5/5 and every single type. So it's IDOLMASTER, cute, cool, and passion. And it says, when playing this card, banish 3 cute cards, 3 cool cards, and 3 passion cards from our cemetery, and it costs 9 less to play. So basically it'll cost 1. And what do you get for that? Well, you get a Stormbane Ward 5/5, which is pretty good. So the idea with this deck is to have a bunch of cards that have discard effects to let us fill our cemetery up with cute, cool, and passion. And then we have a big turn where we can just wombo combo them out of nowhere with a combination of New Generations and Akane Hino, which is one of the passion cards, which is why I don't have enough passion cards to make a passion deck, because we're running a bunch in this deck. And we also have really powerful cards like Akida here. She is like so good, and she works so well with this deck. We have tutors. This deck's cooking. I really enjoy I really enjoy this deck. All right, so with that in mind, let's talk about some of the cards. So we want to essentially play New Generations on the same turn where we can play something like Akane Hino here. What does she do? Well, she's an 8-drop 7/7 with Storm. So you get a 5/5 with Storm and a 7/7 with Storm, which is a good chunk of the way to just one-shotting our opponent. And she, you know, a little more than half their health. A little more than half their health. It's not too bad, just a little more than half their health. So 7/7 Storm, Fanfare, Lesson 3, discard 2 passion cards, deal 6 damage to every enemy follower on the field, and draw 2 cards. This is an incredibly good card, and if you can discard those 2 passion cards, and by the way, we're running a pretty even mix of all the types in this deck. It's pretty close to even across the board. But if we can discard those 2 passion cards, we deal 6 damage to our opponent's board, kill almost all their stuff, if not all their stuff, and then we draw 2 cards, which is great. And then discarding those 2 passion cards helps fuel our New Generation, so we can kind of like, you know, play these both on the same turn. This is an 8-drop, but it's not unheard of where you just go Akane into New Generations and just smash in for an absurd amount of damage. And the New Generations also just happens to have Ward and Bane, so after it's done its damage, it's sitting there being really annoying and really hard to get through. So yeah, we're running 2 Akana Hinos in the deck. Maybe you want to up this to 3, but 2 seems good here. Next up, this is another insanely powerful card, one of my favorite cards in this deck. It's a 2-drop 2/3 Akira Sunazuka, or Akira Sunazuka. So on Fanfare, we can discard up to 3 cards. So we can discard 0 to 3. And it says, if you've discarded at least 1 cute card, heal for 2. So heal our leader for 2. If you discarded at least 1 cool card, draw a card. And if you discarded at least 1 passion card, deal 2 damage to each enemy leader. And then also, Fanfare, if you have at least 10 max play points, draw 2 cards. This card is cracked. Turn 2 play, dropping this, and then just being like, I'll discard 3. You'll draw 1 back up, you'll heal for 2, and then you'll basically deal 2 damage to your enemy leader. A good play pattern of this is like early on, just using it to cycle cards. So discarding like cool cards and drawing is really, really good. But it's just a great way to kind of fill up our cemetery so we can go off with our new generations. So yeah, very good. Very, very good. We also have Layla. Layla is a linchpin of this deck. She's a 4-drop 4/4 that evos for 1, running a full 3 of her in the main. But in the Evo deck, we run 2 Laylas, and she basically lets us go tutor for like 2 crucial cards. So Layla is a 5/5 on Evo, or when she becomes Evo version is a 5/5. On Evolve, she gets a cute little ice cream cone if you have the signature. Search your deck for a cool follower and a passion follower. Reveal them, add them to your hand, then shuffle your deck. Hey, you know it's a good cool follower and a good passion follower. Akana here is a passion follower, and New Generations is all of them. So this is a good way to get our big combo that we're kind of like, building towards. We can use Layla to Evo to go get both of these in our hand, so we make sure we can have that big explosive turn. Also, you just get the 5/5 as well. So yeah, Layla's great. I guess she still has the ice cream cone if you have the unevoed signature version too. Layla, she likes her ice cream cone, man. So yeah, running 3 of her. She's just a good way to set up the rest of our deck. That's not the only options, by the way. There's a bunch of other stuff you can go get too. Just make sure you get a cool follower and a passion follower. Speaking of passion followers, here we have another really good one. Yui Otsuki is another reason I wasn't able to build the passion deck, because I didn't have enough Yuis for both of them. She is a 4-drop 3/3. She evos for 2. Fanfare lesson 1, select an enemy fall on the field and deal it 4 damage, which is kind of nuts. And then when you evo her for 2, I got the fancy Yui. When you evo her for 2, she becomes a 5/5, and then on evolve, search our deck for a spell that costs 3 or less, or an amulet that costs 3 or less, put it into our EX area, then shuffle our deck. It costs 3 less to play this turn. Well, we can go grab one of our many removal spells. So this deck is running a good chunk of removal spells. So we have Center Street, which is a 3 or less, My Life, My Sounds, 3 or less, Angelic Maid, Precious Little Devil, and Whispers of a Dream. We're not running any amulets, but we are running a bunch of these spells. So you can go get any one of these cards, and then you can play it for free. So Yui's kind of nuts as well. So it costs 6 to do the whole thing, but for 6 and a lesson of 1, you deal 4 damage to an enemy follower. You get a 5/5, and then you also get to play any one of these spells for free, which is pretty good. What do the spells do? We'll go over the spells real quick. So Center Street is a 3-drop quick. Select an enemy follower on the field, deal it 5 damage, and if there's a passion follower on our field, hey look, here's a passion follower right here. Then we get a draw card. So this is one of the best ones to go get with Yui. You go get this, deal 4 damage to something, deal 5 damage to something else, draw a card, and then Yui herself can deal 5 damage. So just a casual 14 damage with just a single card. Pretty good. So we're running 2 of these in the deck, and then 1 of My Life, My Sounds, which is kind of like a different. It's kind of like a 3rd Center Street, but a little bit different. As in this one also just costs 3. You select an enemy fall on the field and you destroy it. And if Sanguine is active for you, deal 2 damage to its leader. Sanguine means if you've taken damage this turn. Pretty hard to do with this deck, but just having the unconditional removal is really, really good if they have something bigger than what we can currently deal with. And if we don't have any lesson to be able to shoot something for 4, this one's just a nice way to go get something just to answer whatever we need to answer. And then we also have Angelic Maid, so we can go get this one if we don't need the removal. Select a follower on our field, give it +1, +3, and heal our leader for 3, which is great. So we can use this to pump up one of our followers. We have Precious Little Devil, which is just a nice little small removal. It's kind of like your Angelic Snipe. Deal 2 damage to enemy follower on your field, and if there's at least 3 IDOLMASTER followers on your field, deal 3 damage instead. And then finally, we have this card, which I literally am running like, I don't know how many of these I have in decks, like 12. Every 6, it would be 6, it would be 8, I think. Because I'm running these in the Passion deck, but I don't have the Passion deck all built up. Anyway, 2-drop, quick, select any follower on the field, deal 3 damage, and then 3 damage, or quick, select any follower on the field that costs 3 or less, destroy it, and bury the top card of our deck, which is pretty good. So yeah, just another way to just kill something. But most of the time, we're going to go grab, with Yui at least, we're going to go grab Center Street because it's great and it draws us a card. Just really good like advantage there. And we're running, of course, 3 Yui, and then for the Evo, we're just running 2. This is just the fancy Ultimate Rare version, but the other one is very cute. That's why, hey, look, we have this as the deck box. So yes, Yui is fantastic. All right, we also have New Wave. So New Wave is a 6-drop 7/7 that just says Lesson 5, Fanfare Lesson 5, destroy each enemy card on the field. So it's kind of an all-in type thing because you only have 5 magical items and there's no way to get them back. So if you get to the point where you have to do this, well, then you have to do it. I have never, and I keep this in mind, I haven't played too many games with this deck. I have played a good number, but not too many. Every time I'm at 6 play points, I've already used some of my lesson. You know, I've already done like, used it with Yui or with, just any other number of cards that we're going to show off and talk about. So I've never actually done this effect. Why this is good is because it is also a cute, cool, and passion follower. And so this card, for any of the cards that care about those types, is just a really good card to discard or use for those types, especially with our new generations. So that's why this is in the deck for the most part. If you have to play it out, then you have to play it out. And if you're able to set up a situation where getting that Lesson 5 to go off is good, then it's probably really good. I just haven't been able to do it quite yet. Next up, we have Yumi Aiba. So she is a 3-drop 3/3, Evo for 1. Fanfare, if there's at least 3 Passion Falls in your field, select an enemy from the field and deal it 2 damage. That's great. We're running a full 3 of her. And then in the Evo deck, her name is Yumi. This one, get the right one. So she becomes a 4/4, and on Evolve, you select an enemy from the field with 3 defense or less, and then put it on the bottom of their owner's deck. So you can just kind of like yeet something. So the first effect deals 2 damage, and the second effect can yeet something. If you're able to split this up, she can be a 3-for-1 because she can maybe kill something with this, deal 2 damage. She can bot deck something, 3 defense, and then she's a 4/4, so she can attack into something else. So very, very good. This is actually really good against the aggro cool deck. So we're running 2 of her in the Evo deck. Next up, we have Akane Hino. She is a very pretty card. She's a 5-drop 5/5 with Rush and Assail. Strike, deal 2 damage to each enemy leader, and then you can pay to Lesson 1, give her Storm. We're just running a single copy of her. She's all right. She's a Passion follower. Having a Rush and Assail for 5 isn't too bad. We can basically kill almost anything we want, and if she survives, she can give us additional value. And she has that strike effect as well. So yeah, she's a pretty good card, but not like crucial to this deck. We are running a full 3 of Kana Imai. She's a simple 2-drop 2/2 that evos for 1. She's the other forest evo card here. And she becomes a 3/3 on Evolve. Look at the top card of your deck. You can reveal it, add it to your hand. If you reveal a cute card, give your leader +2 health. So you don't have to get a cute card from it. So basically we'll just draw us no matter what. But if we do, we get that extra little bit of health. So we're running 2 of that in the deck. And once again, these cards, New Wave and New Generations, count as all 3. So, you can get our big cards off of that. I mean, you can get any card off of it, but they'll help you, it'll heal you a little bit if you do. Next up, we have Miku Meikawa. I mentioned we run this in other decks. This is a 2-drop 3/1, as we mentioned before. Strike, select an enemy fall on the field and deal 2 damage, and you can lessen 1 for 1 play point to give her Storm. It's a pretty good card. And once again, we just kind of want this critical mass of equality among all of the types here. So we're running 2 of her. She's just a pretty solid card. Here is Chitose Kurosaki, another pretty great card. 2-drop 2/2. When this card is on your field, your leader and each other follower on your field don't take ability damage during your turn. So, haha, no fast, quick speed ability damage for you. And then for 1 play point and lessen 1, select an enemy fall on the field and deal it 3 damage. Activate this only once per turn. So just for a 2-drop 2/2, she adds a lot of value there. We're also running a couple Shiki Ichinose. Once again, we are running this in the cute deck as well. 5-drop 2/5. She can Evo for 2, and this is the one you look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You put one into EX area, bury the rest, and then you can activate her, discard a card, select an enemy fall on their field, and deal it 5 damage. And then for the Evo, this is the one where it deals you damage but lets you play the card for free. We are running 2 of her in the Evo deck. 4/7, and select up to 1 card in your EX area. You can do damage to that equal to its cost to your leader, but then it costs 0 play points, which is great. Once again, it's tricky. It's tricky with this deck. Don't kill yourself. Don't kill yourself with New Generation. Don't tend yourself unless you have to. Because if you have like 11 health and you have a New Generations in your EX area and you have 1 in hand that you can activate, that's 10 Storm. So if you can just make sure you kill your opponent, then hey, you got it. If you can also combo that in a turn with an Akane, that is 17 damage. So it's definitely a way that you can almost OTK your opponent, right? Having these 2 in hand, and then another New Generations in your EX area that costs 0 from your Shiki. Yeah, from your Evo Shiki. But it has to be that turn. Keep in mind, you have to do it all in the same turn. So it can be, it can be a little touch and go here, but yeah, this deck is a lot of fun. I really like this deck. So yeah, we have 2 in the main, 2 in the Evo, and then we only running 2 more cards. One of them is Kaede Takagaki. Yep, sure, I can say it. She's a 5-drop 3/5 with Ward. This is going to be a very important card in our Ward Haven deck. Fanfare, select an enemy fall on the field and banish it, which is great. At the start of your end phase, if our leader's defense is 5 or less, we heal for 5 and draw a card. So really good. She basically makes it so our opponent has to, deal at least 10, well, at least 6 damage, I guess, in one go. And she also has less than 1. You can give her Aura. So that's really good. Makes her really hard to deal with, and she has Ward. So yeah, she's great. And then the final card of this deck is a 9-drop, but it's not really. This is another really good card. It's a 9-drop 3/3. However, when playing this card, you can discard any 3 Idolmaster cards, and then she costs 6 less to play. So she actually only costs 3 if you discard 2 cards. And then on Fanfare, you select an enemy fall on the field and deal it 4 damage and draw 2 cards, which is real good. Which is really good. So 3-drop, 4 damage. You discard 3, but you draw 2. So this is really good. This is another one of those cards that's just really good at filling up our cemetery, so we can do our New Generations. Other versions of this deck, you could run an additional copy of Syoko Shiomi, yeah, as well as an additional copy of Akane. I think they're both really good and help you kind of do your combo shenanigans. And so yeah, that's this New Generations deck. You just kind of like get a situation where you can just storm kill your opponent out of nowhere. We have a lot of just good removal. Yui is just really good value. Yeah, it's a really funny deck. Is it the best deck in the game? No. Is it the best Idolmaster deck? No. Is it my favorite Idolmaster deck? Maybe. This deck is awesome. This deck is so much fun. Highly recommend trying it out. If you bought a bunch of Idolmaster and you have a bunch of extra cards, especially like these New Generations, which don't go in any other deck, this deck is it's not very expensive to build. Let's just put it that way. But there's no starter deck you can immediately upgrade this from because, well, you use a lot of different cards. But I can tell you that at least now the New Generations isn't a very expensive card. Shiki's not very expensive. All the legendaries in here aren't very expensive. New Wave's very cheap. I guess the only one that might be worth something is, well, Akane's from the starter deck. Maybe Yui is the only card in here that might be worth much at all. But other than that, like, it's pretty, as I knock, fling the cards over, it's a pretty inexpensive deck to build. So if you just want something off kilter and like fun and weird, I recommend the New Generations deck. It's cool. And also cute and also passionate. All right, time to talk about my favorite craft in the game. At least I think so. I love this game so much. There's a lot of different crafts that I really love. I mean, like, I love all of them, to be honest. But this one I think might be my favorite, and this might be among my favorite decks, just in general. For a lot of the decks going forward, we're not going to go over every single card individually like we did with the IDOLMASTER cards and the IDOLMASTER deck, because these decks are basically just like slightly upgraded versions of the decks from the previous deep tech deep dive. And I will have a link to the previous one in the description down below if you want to see a much more like in-depth analysis of these. But we'll talk about some of the changes that I've made, or rather we'll talk about all the changes that I made. So this one is Control Abyss. There's a couple of ways to build this deck currently. I kind of stuck mostly to what I was doing before, and we have a pretty heavy like discard package. We're also running my girl here, Ginsetsu Great Fox, as well as Ranko, which is a really good addition, like new addition to this deck. I also swapped out some stuff for Maruzensky, another one of my favorites. And other than that, it's pretty close. So we'll go over the deck really quick. So here are the new additions to the deck. So we have 9 new additions to this version of the deck. 3 of them are cards that already existed before with Maruzensky, and then we have Whispers of a Dream and Ranko Kanzaki. Every other card in the deck is the same as I had it before, so we'll go over that real quick. So we have the 3 Yuzuki, great card for filling up our cemetery and dealing some damage and just also killing stuff. We are still running our 3 Dark Angel Olivias. We have 3 Demonium Punk Devil. I guess I can quickly say what they do at least. So Olivia is a great little toolbox card. She can either heal us, give us Evo points, draw cards, or make our opponent discard. Healing us and making our opponent discard are probably the most common ones these days, but also having them discard and having us draw is also pretty good. We almost always pick discard though. Demonium is just a nice little dude who comes up the board, and he's really good for Ektar. We'll talk about that later, but just a 2/3 with Ward that can also get Bane is also quite good. Just a staple. We have our 3 of Bellringer Angel, also another little staple. Great card for mid-range and control decks to come up the board and draw us cards when it dies. We have a 3 of Soul Conversion. We can cash in our followers for card draw, which is great. Cashing in our Bellringer Angel and drawing 3 cards is always really good. We have Rulanai again. Rulanai is just kind of cracked. Really good at like making our opponent discard and killing stuff. What's great about this is we're a pretty heavy Necro Charge deck now. We're not the Reanimator version. There's a Reanimator version going around that runs Israfil and the card, the 6-drop that lets you bring a card back from your cemetery. I think it's called like Last Breath or Death's Breath. We'll put them. Hopefully I'll remember to put the image up here. But instead I'm going for the more of the discard route. So instead of Reanimator, I'm going for discard, and we have we still have Ginsetsu and Ektar as kind of our finishers here instead of Israfil. But yeah, Rulanai is great. We have 3 in the main deck, and then we have, it's right here. We are still running 3 in the Evo deck. We almost always want to Evo in because getting that random discard is just super good, and then taxing our opponents for spells is really good too, especially if we're playing against Kuon, which is still a thing. So yeah, 3 Rulanai. We have 2 Silent Purge. It's a little slow, but can still be pretty good against the really big IDOLMASTER cards. It's a 4-drop. You select an enemy follower, you destroy it, and they discard a random card. So once again, we're still leaning into that discard strategy. Thundering Roar, same kind of deal. You can deal damage to followers or make them discard a card, and if you have Necro Charge 10, you get to do both. So still running 3 of these. Surefire Bullet, just for the, I said that weird. Surefire Bullet. Surefire Bullet kills our opponent's stuff. It's very good. We're running a lot of these in a lot of decks. And then finally, we have the big package of this deck. we have our 3 Ginsetsu Great Foxes. They're just amazing ways to close out the game. They fill our board with our foxes, which are 1/3s with Rush and Ward. And we can play them for free after we Evo, running 2, by the way, 2 Evo versions of Ginsetsu. And then, yeah, this is just great. This is our top end finisher. And then paired with that, we have Demon Lord Ektar. And I still really like Ektar. He's a 5/6 with Necro Charge 10. And it says select up to 2 Abyss followers that cost 2 play points or less in our cemetery, and then put them onto our field, and then give each other follower in our field +1/+1. But on Necro Charge 20, you give those followers +3/+3, which is super, super good. And why is that good? Well, you can have a turn where you have Ginsetsu, and you play Demon Lord Ektar. And so Ginsetsu will have her 3 foxes. And so even if you don't have, even if you don't have your stuff to get back with Ektar, which we do have some stuff to get back, you'd give all your foxes +3/+3, plus the effect from Ginsetsu, which makes them all deal an additional point of damage. Like, it's like so much. This is a huge, huge finisher. So they would each deal 5 points of damage. Each fox would deal 5 points of damage, right? Because they would all be 4 6s with Rush and Ward, and then Ginsetsu's ability makes all the yokais deal 1 more point of damage. So they'd all deal 5 points of damage each. So 5, 10, 15, plus Ginsetsu, who would also get +3/+3. Yeah, this is a finisher, right? So this is what we do instead of the Israfil stuff. And I like it. You can also do the Israfil stuff, but I'm still sticking with my Ektar version of the deck. And so that takes us to the new cards in the deck, which are 3 Renko Kanzaki. So this is a great card for this deck because it helps fill our Necro Charge, and it also just is generally very strong. She's a 4-drop 3/3. She immediately deals 2 damage to something when you play her on Fanfare, and then she can Evo for 1. Ignore the Lesson ability. We cannot activate it because we're not an IDOLMASTER deck. And then on Evo, so we have a 2 Renko for the Evo. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You can put 1 in your EX area and bury the rest. So burying the rest is really good because it actually fuels our Necro Charge, right? It gives us 3 more for the Necro Charge. So Renko basically draws us a card and Necro Charge 3s us, which is really, really good. And so yeah, we're running 4 in the main, 2 in the Evo. And then we have Whispers of a Dream, which also just Necro Charges us really well. 2-drop, quick, select an enemy follower that costs 3 or less, destroy it, and bury the top card of your deck. So this, like, you get the top card, and then you also get this card that goes into your cemetery, so that Necro charges you 2, which is really, really good. And then finally, we have Maruzensky making her comeback. She's super good, especially if you have a lot of Necro Charge. So 3-drop, 3/3. She evos for 1. We don't care about the racing ability because we're not running any carrots or anything. Doesn't matter. But on Fanfare, Necro Charge 10, select an enemy fall on the field and give it -4/-4. And then when you evo our girl Maruzensky here, you give another thing, -2/-2. So you can give something basically -6/-6 across 2 things, -4/-4, -2/-2, or both on the same thing. And you also have Maruzensky, who is a 4/4. So just for 4 play points, it's only 3 and then 1 to evo. That's an insane amount of value. And our deck is kind of like, we have a lot of ways to do the Necro Charge stuff now. So yeah, pretty sweet. I like this deck a lot, and I like how it has like this alternate, or not alternate, but this win condition that you don't see a lot out there with Ektar and Ginsetsu. By the way, with Ektar, like you don't have to get the pump the foxes. You can also get 2 Demonium back, by the way, because they are Abyss followers that cost 2 or less. I will say though they are among the only Abyss followers that cost 2 or less in this deck. So keep that in mind. We can only get Demonium back, but we can get 2 Demoniums. Give them +1/+1. That's not the worst. It's not the worst. And yeah. So yeah, I like this deck a lot. It's a lot of fun. Highly recommended. Let's get on to our other Abyss deck. All right, now we have our Aggro Abyss deck, and similarly, as with most of the decks this time, we didn't make too many changes from the previous from the previous iteration. So if you want to see that version, go ahead and check those out. So once again, link in the description down below to the previous deck tech deep dive. All right, So let's talk about the new inclusions in this deck, and it's pretty much the same, but we did add Sachiko, so we can kind of pull Sachiko out. We also added in more Ranko Kanzaki, and then I think I added in another Mirabane. But in terms of new cards, we also have our Last Daylight, and so this is a aggro. This is essentially an aggro deck, right? That's really what we want to do, and the new cards help us facilitate that. And Ranko actually works really, really well with Mirabane. We'll talk about that, or Jerry, if you want to call him that. And so the deck itself is pretty straightforward, right? Once again, for these, we're not going to go over every single card individually and read it all out, but I do want to just kind of go over, I'll give you a rough idea. So we have Ambling Wraith, which is a pretty effective unit, being able to be a 2/1 for 1 that also deals 1 damage to each leader, so we can activate our Sanguine stuff. We have Disciple of Lust, same kind of deal, 1-drop 1/1 that also helps deal extra bonus damage to both ourself and our opponent. We have our Skeleton Fighter, which is just a 1-drop 3/3 if we have Sanguine, which is also great. You can see a pattern here, lots of 1-drops. We also have Fina, which is great for killing 1-drops, or looking at the top 5 cards of our deck and getting one of our many 1-drops, which is good. So we have 3 Finas. Antelope Pelt Warrior is 2-drop 3/3, and at the start of our main phase, deal 1 damage to our leader, which is good for turning on Sanguine, which is really, really important. We have Vite, Vampire Noble, 2-drop 2/2, that on strike he summons a bat, which is bats are notably 1-drops. Get a foil bat. Bats are notably 1-drop 1/1s. We are running a few of him in the Evo deck. So we're running two Vites in the Evo deck. And on Evolve, you put a Force Bat into your EX area, and then on Strike, you summon a Force Bat. So we get some Force Bat synergies here. It's going to be really relevant too with this new card that we're putting in the deck. We have a Playful Necromancer, which is a nice card from one of the starter decks. We have 2 of her in the Evo as well. And so when she evolves, you summon 3 ghosts, which once again, notably are 1-drops with Storm, which is really, really important. So you get 3 ghosts when you Evo her. So we're running 2 of her in the Evo deck, and we're running 2 of her in the main deck. We always Evo her when we play her. And at this point in time, I think this is a good time to mention it. Last Daylight. All right, so this card is going to be very, very good in upcoming metas with the whole bat strategy, but I think it's good now in this strategy because this is a 2-drop, not quick speed, it's just 2-drop spell. Select an enemy follower on the field, you deal it 3 damage, and then you give +1 attack to every follower that costs 1 or less on your field. And why is that good with this deck? Well, you saw the absolute number of 1-drops we are running in the deck. So we have a bunch of 1-drops just naturally in the deck, but then we also have stuff that make 1-drops, like Vite makes the bats, and then importantly we have Playful Necromancer, which combos really, really well with Last Daylight, because if you're able to play the Playful Necromancer for 4 and Evo her, then you get a 4/4, and then you also get 3 1/1 ghosts that all have Storm, and then you can play Last Daylight, so this is a 6 play point turn. You deal 3 damage to an enemy follower, maybe a ward or something, clear it off. And then all of your ghosts get +1/+1, so you can smash in for 6 damage, 2 damage a pop. Plus any other, 1-drops that you get bonuses on. So yeah, I think this card's really good, and it's just our removal spell of choice for this version of the deck. We have Aragavi. This guy is a house. He's a 3-drop 4/3. Fanfare, you can pay 5 and deal 5 damage to each other follower on the field, including your own. But then he also gets +2/+2 with Storm, so he just nugs everything for 5, and then can smash in for 6, which is insanely good. And then it says also at the start of your end phase, if Sanguine is active for you, so all of those cards that dealt damage to us is really good for turning this effect on. Select an enemy leader or a follower on the field and deal it 3 damage. So yeah, just a nice way to deal with that extra bit of burn damage. And you can also just wipe the board. 6 Storm to the face. Aragavi is really sweet. Dark General, pretty nice card here. It's just a 4-drop 5/5, great stats. And if you have Sanguine, she has Storm. And then we have a lot of ways, as we saw, to turn on the Sanguine. So yeah, she can just kill her opponent dead out of nowhere. I've double Dark Generaled many times for the win. We also have Jerry. Jerry is actually really good with Ronco here. So this is another inclusion that I was like, I'm not sure if I want to play her, but then I was like, no, I do really want to play Ronco and Jerry here, because Jerry, he's a 5-drop 5/5, he evos for 1, he has Rush, and it says at the start of your end phase, if there are 2 cards or less in your hand, deal 3 damage to each enemy leader. If there are 0 cards in your hand, deal 3 damage to each enemy follower on the field. So if you have 0 cards, you deal 3 damage to each enemy follower and each enemy leader. Why? I mean, 3 damage is pretty good, just to the dome to finish it off. However, for the Evo version, he deals 5. So we are running a full 3 of Evo Jerry. We always want to Evo Jerry. And so on Evolve, he's a 6/6, and it says the same thing, but instead of dealing 3 damage, he deals 5 damage. So if you have 0 cards in your hand, he deals 5 damage to your opponent's face and all of their stuff. It is insane. He's kind of insane. And why does Ronco work really well with this? Well, Ronco, 4-drop 3/3, evos for 1. You select an enemy fall on the field and deal it 2 damage. Okay, that's not too bad. However, what you really care about is the Evo part, where when you Evo Ronco, you essentially you draw a card, right? But you draw it into your EX area, which is really good for having 0 cards with Jerry here, because Jerry doesn't care about the cards in your EX area. So that means on Evolve, look at top 4 cards of our deck, we can put one of them to our EX area, bury the rest. And so you can set up a turn where you can like Jerry your opponent like for a bunch of damage and then still play stuff because you have cards from your Ronco Evo. So I think Jerry and Ronco work pretty well together. So we're running a full 3 Ronco and 3 Jerry, and then just some token generators essentially. So yeah, 3 Jerry in the main. And the final card in the main is just Razor Claw, 3 damage to anything we want and 2 to ourselves. Just a great way to finish off our opponent. This is essentially an aggro burn deck, right? We have so many ways to just deal direct damage to our opponent. We have Razor Claw, Jerry, we have like just a bunch of stuff with Storm. Like this is a Disciple of Lust and Ambling Wraith deal damage directly as well. Yeah, just a nice little way to burn our opponent out. So yep, we have the 3 Roncos in the main as well. We have the Last Daylight that we talked about, and the final card that I wanted to mention is just another overstated unit. 2-drop 3/3 Sachiko. So she's a 2-drop 3/3. On Fanfare, she deals 2 damage to our leader, which kind of sucks, but also not that bad if we want to turn on Sanguine. And it says, if our leader's defense is 10 or less, this follower has Storm and Bane. So there are turns with this deck that you can do stuff like for 10 play points, you can go Sachiko, deal 2 damage to yourself, Dark General, attack for 13. So yeah, pretty good. That's pretty good. You can do a lot of damage with this deck. So yeah, this is our newly upgraded and tweaked aggro deck. This deck will essentially become our vampire bat deck eventually, but for now we're still kind of like burning them out. All right, next up we have our RuneCraft deck, and this is literally the same deck, literally the same deck in the previous video. So I'm really not going to spend too much time here going on over this, but I do want to mention the one addition that I made to this deck, as well as Curse Crafter, because well, we got to talk a little bit about Curse Crafter here. So yeah, this deck is your Kuon deck, right? I pulled these Demon Callers aside because we're going to talk about them with Kuon here. So the deck is your Kuon deck. It's like this combo deck where you just play your Onmyoji followers and some spells, and you take a couple extra turns and you just kill your opponent with Kuon and our token here, which I'm using this as a fill-in for the Celestial Shikigami. One of my artist friends, Hanchu, drew this for me, so it's beautiful, and I'm using that instead of the Celestial Shikigami. She drew this for me a long time ago when Shadowverse first came out, and I was just like, this is actually perfect. This is perfect. But in any case, the only new card that I added to this deck is a 1 of Full Bloom Panorama. Why? Well, I think this card is beautiful, and I think it's actually pretty good in this deck because it's a 5-drop quick speed that says select 2 enemy followers on the field and destroy them, or up to 2. So this is just a 2-for-1, blow up 2 of the, most important things on your opponent's field. It's really, really good. I also got these new Trail of Lights. I just upgraded to the new promo version that has gorgeous artwork. And that's it. That's the only difference. Other than that, this deck is kind of like just your Kuon deck, right? I think I took out 1 Surefire Bullet for the full bloom panorama, but you can take out whatever else. This deck essentially has kind of like this spell toolbox that you can go search up with. Merlin, right? Merlin and Agnes Tachyon are your 2 ways to kind of make use of this toolbox. We have our Penguin Wizards, we have some removal with our Lamplit, and then we have a big finisher, which is Kuon, which is a 5/5, and we play them. We get another 4/5, and he can give some Shikigami Stuff Storm, and we want to back that up with our D-shifts, dimension shifts, to take extra turns. That's essentially how the deck functions. I can go much deeper into this in the previous video, but for this one, we're just going to mention that, yep, I did make one small adjustment, and then also Curse Crafter. So Curse Crafter recently it was recently announced that Curse Crafter is going to be restricted, right? Which means you can only have 1 of them in your deck. Why do I have 3 of them in my deck? Well, the restriction doesn't take place until the end of November, so we can still play with this version of the deck until the next set comes out. And so when the next set comes out, this deck is going to change a little bit. But one of the big things we're going to do is we're going to have to remove 2 Curse Crafters. And then for my build, I'll likely just be bringing in these the Demon Callers instead. But there's some new stuff that's in Verdant Steel that we're probably going to be playing as well. So just keep that in mind. That's the Kuon deck. Once again, if you want the full rundown on the deck, check out my previous video. But yeah, it's still really, really good. All right, next up we have the only other new deck other than the IDOLMASTER decks that I built for this current meta. Every other deck is just kind of like slightly upgraded. And this is a Ward Haven deck. And well, let's get on with it. So we have Lorena, Gentle Piety. Piety is the right word for that. I'm not Piety. Nah, my name is Piety. I'm using the same sleeve combination as I was for my Karula deck. So this is essentially my Karula deck, but I swapped it into this Ward Haven list. I wanted to build at least 1 new deck, and this is the one that I ended up deciding to go with. So let's go ahead and talk about it. First things first, we have Bellringer Angel. This is the Japanese version, and I will say, anytime I show a Japanese card off, and this is going to be the only one in this video, but keep in mind that you are not able to use Japanese language cards at English events. I have so many decks that require Bellringer Angels. I didn't have enough. I think I have like 15 or something, and I needed more. There's a lot of decks that I run this meta that uses Bellringer. So if I wanted to play this at an official tournament, I would have to get my English versions and swap them out. So just keep that in mind. So we do have 3 Bellringer Angels. This is a Ward deck, right? And so Bellringer is just really, really good in the Ward deck. And also the Japanese versions look really cool. We're running 3 in the main and 1 in the Evo. Just for your tempo reasons. We're also running Phantom Blade Wielder. This is another one that we've been running for the last version of this deck as well. 2-drop 2/2, Evos for 1 at the start of our end phase. If we have at least 2 play points, select any fall on the field and deal it 2 damage, which is good for the early turns. As you'll notice, we don't have a lot of early turn cards, especially we don't have a lot of 3-drops. We're only running a 1 of the Evo version. And for the Evo version, it's a 3/3, on evolve, select any fall on the field and deal it 2 damage, and then it still has the other effect, right? So it can deal like 2 damage here, 2 damage there. It's a pretty good one. I'm also continuing to run Boost Kicker. I've seen a lot of people not running Boost Kicker, and I think you should run Boost Kicker. This card's cracked. 2-drop 2/2, Fanfare. You can pay an additional X play point, and then you deal X damage to each enemy fall on the field. So if you play Boost Kicker for 5, you get Boost Kicker, and then he deals 3 damage to everything, all your opponent's followers, which is really, really good. At the start of your end phase, you recover 1 play point, which is nice for playing some of our 1-drop quick speed stuff. I really like Boost Kicker. It's a one-sided board wipe, and late game it can just absolutely annihilate all your opponent's stuff. And especially with the cool IDOLMASTER deck being so good and prevalent now, I think Boost Kicker is he's just very, very good. Next up we have Octo Bishop. So this is a 4-drop, 4/4 with Ward. At the start of our end phase, you give him +2 health. So he's essentially a 4-drop 4/6, and it just keeps getting bigger if your opponent doesn't kill him. And yeah, he's just big chungus. He's just big Ward chungus. Not much else to say. They have to kill him or else it just gets bigger and bigger. We're also running a 3 of Jeanne d'Arc, pretty standard for a lot of Haven lists. Deals 2 damage to each enemy fall on the field on Fanfare, and then she can Evo for 2. And then we are running the Fancy Jeannes, because I splurged on these a little while ago. So we have the Fancy Jeannes to deal another 2 damage to each enemy fall on the field, but also giving all of our followers +2 health, which is really annoying when a lot of our stuff has Ward. So, yep, 3 Jeanne main, 2 in the Evo. We have another pet card of mine with Zoe. So she's a 4-drop 3/3. You can Evo her for 1. We always want to Evo Zoe, by the way. Fanfare, deal 2 damage to our leader. Put the top 2 cards of our deck into our cemetery, but we get a draw card. So that's okay. But what I really like Zoe for is her Evo, where she just banishes something. So she becomes a 4/4. Also, she's very pretty. But she becomes a 4/4, and you select an enemy fall on the field and banish it. So I run this over Cudgel, Priest of the Cudgel, where Priest of the Cudgel is cheaper to play. Doesn't have this effect where you take 2 damage, mill 2, or draw a card. But his banish is a little more situational, and I like this. She costs a little bit more. She costs 5 to do the whole effect. But at the end of the day, you get a 4/4, you banish something, and you draw a card. You also take 2 damage and mill 2, but that doesn't matter quite as much. The 2 damage can kind of add up, but she's still a pet card of mine, and I really like it. And I like to defend her over Priest of the Cudgel. Next up, we have Marwyn, who does not have Ward on his front side, which is kind of a bummer for some things, but he's a 4-drop 4/4. We can Evo him for 4, or we can skip our next turn to Evo him. And when we do, he becomes a big old chungus that also has Ward. So Marwyn becomes the 8/8 with Ward and Aura, and then on Evo we increase our max play points by 1, heal our leader +3, and then draw a card, which is pretty nice. Skipping that turn is something that you can do against some decks. Against the IDOLMASTER decks, especially the cool deck, that's risky. That's really risky, but you know, maybe there's times where that's the right thing to do. All right, let's get into some of our sweet new, well, not new, but some of our Ward package, because we have this sweet Ward package with Kaede, and we have Aether of the White Wing. This is another one of those decks that can just like poop out just a bunch of dudes. It can just like, here's a bunch of dudes. So let's talk about those dudes. All right, so we have Holy Lancer, 5-drop 3/4. Evos for 1, has Ward. If there's another follower with Ward on your field, you deal 3 damage to an opposing follower, which is really good. And then the Evo version is also very, very good, running 2 of them. Evo version becomes a 4/5, still with Ward. Select an enemy from the field and deal it 4 damage. So, for a total of 6 play points, you get a 4/5 that has Ward, and then you can deal something 3 damage, and then another thing 4 damage, which is very, very good. Or the same thing. Yeah, nice little 3-for-1 here. Love effects like this. So, yeah, 2 in the Evo deck, 3 in the main. We're also running Wilbert, Grand Knight. So this is one of the linchpins of the deck. 5-drop 4/5 with Ward. Fanfare, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. From among them, you can summon a follower with Ward, not named Wilbert, that costs 5 or less. Put the rest on the bottom. And then whenever a follower with Ward on our field is put into the cemetery, deal 1 damage to each enemy leader, which is great. So basically, he's a 5-drop that gets another 5-drop from the top 5. 5/5/5. What's another good 5-drop to get? Well, I'm glad you asked. Glad you asked. Well, you can get your Holy Lancer. You can get your Octo Bishop. It has to have Ward on it though. So a lot of these other cards, I mean, you can technically get like your, you can technically get your Bellringer Angel, but you really want to get either your Holy Lancer or Kaede, because this is just a house. So she is a 3/5 with Ward, and then on Fanfare, she select an enemy fall on the field and you banish it. And then at the start of our end phase, if our leader's defense is 5 or less, we heal 5 and draw a card, which is super, super good. We can ignore the lesson because we're not IDOLMASTER deck. So Wilbert into Kaede is really, really strong. You just have a bunch of just annoying ward followers. And then Aether makes this even better because Aether, she's a 7-drop, 3/5 with ward. Fanfare, search your deck for a Haven follower with a different name than this card that costs less than our maximum play points and put it onto our field. So if we play Aether at 7, we can go get any of the cards I just showed. But my favorite to get is Wilbert because it's just a chain effect, right? You play your Aether, you get Wilbert. Wilbert's a Fanfare effect triggers, and then hopefully you can get Kaede. So for 7 play points, you can get all 3 of these in your field, at least these 2, plus, you know, hopefully something else from Wilbert. But this is kind of like the ideal situation. So you have 3/5 with ward, 4/5 with ward, and a 3/5 with ward that also banishes something and maybe heals you and draws you a card. So once again, this is the kind of deck that can just barf out a whole bunch of dudes. Like once you get to this critical mass, you can just barf out so many guys. And I wanted to include, I've noticed some other versions of this deck don't do this, but hey, I like doing it my own way. I still include my one of Heavenly Aegis because you can still, at 9 play points, you can still go into Aether and then go search for your Heavenly Aegis and slam him into play. And he's an 8/8. And then, you know, do I have to tell you what Aegis does? He's huge. He's unkillable and huge. He's an 8-drop 8/8 that evos for 2 or discarding 3 cards, and he has Aura, and he can't be destroyed by abilities, but he can still be destroyed by ability damage. And then we also have the one of in the Evo deck, and he's a 10/10. And then on Aura, he sells Aura, and then on Evolve for the rest of the turn and during each of your opponent's next turns, he also doesn't take damage at all, and he still can't be destroyed by abilities. So he's just unkillable for a full turn, and you have a 10/10. And so like, yeah, I still like having my buddy Aegis here, especially when we're running Aether. Just being able to go search for our one Aegis, slam him into play if we have if we play Aegis on 9 play points, right? Yeah, it's super good. And if we do that, by the way, if we do Aether on 9 play points, you can go get the Aegis and then immediately evolve him because he costs 2 to evo. So yes, good stuff. All right, the rest of the deck is removal. This is what we do. So the Saviors can basically go search for Marwyn, which is great, or banish an enemy follower with 2 defense or less, which is solid for 1-drop. Holy Counterattack, I was running this in my previous deck, and it's just better in this version. It cannot be played on our turn, which is a big downside, but and also it can only hit engaged followers, another big downside. But it deals 2 damage, and if we have a ward follower, it deals 4 damage. So 1 for 4 is a really, really good rate. And most of the time that we want to kill our opponent's followers is when they're attacking us, so they're going to be engaged anyway. So I'm running this over Angelic Snipe, but I think Angelic Snipe could be a consideration. It's just a 1-drop, unconditional, deal 2 damage, where this one has some conditions. And then, of course, we have our Surefire Bullet, which is just a great removal all around. And so, yeah, that's our Ward Haven deck. If you don't want to play Idolmaster and you want a deck that just kind of like dumps a bunch of dudes, this is a good version. And also, I'm just a huge fan of Aether of the White Wing, just in general. And so being able to play her is great. And, you know, Aethering, like I said, Aether into Wilbert, into Kaede is just like, whew, is real nice. Or, I mean, if you have extra play points, so you can also Aether into Wilbert, into Holy Lancer, and then evolve her if you have the extra play points to do so, and then deal a bunch of damage and do all that kind of stuff. Yeah, this deck is sweet. I like this deck a lot. It's running a lot of pet cards for me, like Zoe, and I have like my ultimate rare Jeans and all that kind of good stuff. And Boost Kicker, I think is still really, really good. Between like Boost Kicker and Jean, it's like pretty easy to board wipe our opponents if I have like a mid to small dude. So yes, the Ward Haven, and I think this deck gets more stuff in the next set. So I figured it was a good time to build it. Yeah. Next up, we have SWORDCRAFT, and as with all of the other kind of like upgraded decks, this is essentially an upgraded version of Fairy Force or Amata's Force, whatever you would want to call it. And we got some pretty nice cards in the IDOLMASTER set for this particular deck. As with all of the other ones that are just getting a slight upgrade, well, we're not going to be going over all the cards super in depth, but we will talk about the ones mostly that are new. Specifically Anastasia here, which is just, she's super good, and Goddess by the Sunlit Sea. So I know this card sees a lot more play in future sets, but I wanted to try it out here and wanted to really kind of do the whole like combo thing, especially since we have 2 5-drops in the deck. And that's it. These are the only 2 new additions to the deck. Other than that, we'll go over those in just a second. We still have our 3 Spinaria, which is going to be really good with the Goddess by the Sunlit Sea. And we have a lot of our fairy stuff like Blessed Fairy Dancer to pump the Pixie Squad. We have Fairy Dragon, just a great ward that also just can get really big and give us Fairy Wisps and whatnot. We have our Lily, just a great removal. And she can also potentially draw some cards. We have Sukuna, Brave and Small. Just a single one of these in the Evo deck. We did change around the Evo deck a little bit because we also added in a 3rd Roach. And I think we might have had a 3rd Roach before, but we did opt to bring in a 3rd Roach for the Evo deck to kind of like maximize our combo potentiality with Anastasia and Goddess by the Sunlit Sea. So we are running the 3 of Roach in the Evo deck. We're also running 2 Sukuna, so you basically always want to Evo the Sukuna. And the other big change is we're running 3 of the Elven Princess Mage, once again, to kind of lean a little bit more into that combo feel. So we're running the 3 in the main deck and the 3 in the Evo deck, so we can get those Fairy Wisps just a little bit more consistently, I would say. Obviously, we have Amataz, who's going to, help us push out an absolutely disgusting amount of damage. We have Fairy Circle. We went down 1 Fairy Circle, so we cut 1 Fairy Circle, but it's still a fantastic card and potentially one of the ones that you might want to, bump up 1 instead of some of the other cards in here. But we're trying the 2 of Fairy Circle. Spirit Shine is also just fantastic, either pumping some units or giving us additional fairies. Nature's Guidance gives us card draw and lets us replay stuff for the on-enter effects. And then we have Elf Song to pump the squad, which is great. All right, so let's talk about the new additions, which are Anastasia and Goddess by the Sunlit Sea. So Anastasia is a 2/4 for 5. On Fanfare, recover 2 play points, which is really, really good. And she says, whenever you play a card during your turn, if it's the 3rd card you played this turn, recover 2 play points. If it's the 5th card, give each follower on our field +1/+1. And so essentially what we want to do to kind of like make this like the combo-tastic kind of thing, like I mentioned, is we want to fill our board with fairies or, other such things, Amataz, Anastasia, and some fairies. And, in order to do that, we want to play like our fairy tokens or our fairy wisps, which cost 0. And we want to be able to play, multiples. We can also do things like play a bunch of stuff and then play our Roach and then Evo the Roach, which is the most important part, and give it Storm. And so what the idea is that we play a whole bunch of things, pull the Roach back out, and for everything we play before it, so it says Fanfare, give this follower +X, where X is the number of cards you've played this turn, excluding this card. So we play a whole bunch of cards. Hopefully they cost 0 or give us play points back, and Anastasia helps with that. And then we Evo Roach to give it Storm, so we can smash our opponent for a ton of damage, attack with all of our fairies, which also have Storm because of Amataz, and it's great. It's Fairy Forest, but also with a little bit more combo potential because of Anastasia giving us play points back. And speaking of which, we have Goddess by the Sunlit Sea. So this is a 1-drop, and it just says draw a card. If there's a follower that costs 5 or more in your field, you get a play point back. So it's essentially a 0-cost draw card that helps with our combo, helps filter our hand. Early game, we can just play this kind of like as an insight and draw a card. But late game, when we have our 5-drops, and like I said, we're running 2 5-drops in the deck. When we have either Spinaria or, more importantly, like Anastasia out, we can kind of just pop off and draw cards and get our play points back. And yeah, you can kind of have a big explosive turn, but you can also just do normal fairy stuff. You can do normal Amataz stuff. So yeah, I like this version of the deck. I think it's a lot of fun. And yeah, the other version of Forest that I had last time we'll talk about at the end. Next up, we have SWORDCRAFT, and Once again, much like all of the decks that just got a little upgrade, well, we got a little upgrade. So this is going to be a little bit quicker than a lot of the other ones. And we'll just go over mostly the new cards added here. There's not a ton of them, but there's some pretty fun ones. So we'll talk about them. All right. So this is essentially an upgraded version of the previous Sword deck. So if you want to see the full list and go really deep into it, well, we have the full list in the description down below, but we go really deep into the previous version in the last video. So the new cards we added are just these 5 cards here. So we'll get to those in just a moment. This is still a kind of like Ralmia deck where we basically just want to dump a whole bunch of followers on the field, and we can do a bunch of damage with cards like Ralmia, Kagemitsu, and it's all kind of backed up with stuff like Gem Staff, which can let us go search for whatever we need in the given situation. And we still have our Thief package with our Servant. We have Octress, the Disciple, which is insane still, still a really good card, and the Apostle. So we have our we still have our typical Thief package, just a 3 of all the cards that you would come to know and love depending on what side of this you're on. For the Evo deck for them, we are still rocking a decent amount. So we're still rocking 2 of the Apostle of Usurpation and 2 of the Octress. And those just help us, close out the game. We have a lot of storm damage. We have the ability to steal our opponent's stuff and play them, which is always great. Just really efficient units, and also the ability to kind of like mill our opponent out, which is just really good. So if you'd like to hear more about that kind of stuff, check out the previous 2 deep dives. We've been playing the Thief package for a while, and it is great. Ralmia is a little bit newer, but she's really good, and she works really well with any other follower that makes more followers. So she works really well with the Floral Fencer. So we're running a 3 of Floral Fencer, and then for the Evo deck, we are also running more Floral Fencers. Where's my Evo deck? Literally it's just right here. It's literally just right here. There's the Evo deck. So yeah, we're running 2 of the Floral Fencers there. We have a 1 of Bellringer in the Evo deck as well, and 2 Ralmias, so we can get that nice storm damage. So 3 in the main for Ralmia, 2 in the Evo deck. And like I said, we're still running like Kagemitsu. I really like Steadfast Samurai still as a 1-drop 1/1, but it also just doesn't take combat damage, so it forces your opponent to use like actual removal on it, and you can just pump it up anytime you want to do 2 play points on your turn, which is great. And also gives it rush. So I really like the Steadfast Samurai. Like I mentioned, we're running the Bellringer Angels because this is kind of more of a mid-rangey deck. We are running Finas, a full 3 Finas, because we have a lot of 1-drops. It's also good at killing our opponent's 1-drops. There's a lot of good 1-drops right now with IDOLMASTER. And then I mentioned Gem Staff to go tutor for any sword follower we want. And then, of course, Aurelia, because she's really good against all the decks that also barf out a bunch of followers. Okay, so that's kind of what the deck was before. So we added some new IDOLMASTER cards, right? So let's talk about these, basically these 3 new IDOLMASTER cards. So the first one here is Nagi Hisakawa. I'm using the ultimate rare version, which is very cute. And so she's essentially a 4-drop 4/4, and she says, Fanfare, banish 2 1-cost cards from your cemetery. Choose up to 2 of the following. So you can select an enemy file on the field and destroy it. You can deal 2 damage to each enemy leader, or you can draw a card and discard a card. It also has this lesson ability, but we don't care about that because we're not IDOLMASTER. So this is just a really efficient card because it's also just a 4-drop 4/4. And yeah, it's just really good. We have a lot of 1-drops in the deck. So we have Kagemitsu, we have Steadfast Samurai, Bellringer Angel, as well as our Servant of Usurpation. And so with all of that, including Fina helping us, draw into them, I feel that this card is a little bit underplayed. As a 4-drop, it's just a 4-drop, kill your thing, deal you 2 damage, or a 4-drop, kill your thing and draw a card, discard a card. It's really good. So yeah, I like this quite a bit. So we're running 2 of them in the deck here. And then we're also running a 2 of Kyoko Igarashi. When we've talked about her earlier for the IDOLMASTER stuff, I think she's just very good. 7-drop, 6/7 with Ward, and on Fanfare, you heal 3, draw 2, and then you can Evo her for 1, running 2 in the main. And then when you Evo her, she becomes a 7/8, and she still has Ward, and on Evolve, you can select an enemy fall on the field and engage or refresh it, so we can either, once again, attack past it if it had Ward, so you would refresh it so you can attack past the Ward, or you can engage it if you want to kill it. And on your turn, she also doesn't take damage, like, at all. Like, it doesn't take damage at all. So that includes combat damage or ability damage. She just doesn't take damage on her turn. So she's very, very good. So I like her quite a bit as a top end that also draws us stuff and heals. And then finally, I have a 1 of this in my deck, and I'm testing it out. But I think she's kind of cracked. So she's a 9-drop, but not really. She's a 9/9 with Ward, and on Fanfare, refresh all of your followers, which means you can attack with them again. So she essentially lets you double attack with your squad on the turn you play her. But she's a 9-drop. Well, not really, because she costs 3 less to play if you have a 1-drop follower on your field. And I already mentioned, we have a ton of 1-drop followers. So this makes it pretty easy to do. And this is another one of the cards that I feel is kind of underrated. So, especially if you're running this many 1-drops like we are, being able to play a 9/9 with Ward for 6, so you can do this on turn 6 if you have a 1-drop, or you can just, play a 1-drop and then play her, so she would cost 7, I guess. But then also refresh all of your stuff. And so, it makes it really, really scary if your opponent leaves any of your cards on the field, because then you can push a ton of damage. I mean, we also have stuff that has Storm as well, like the Disciple of Usurpation. But I like having just a single 1-drop, like a 1 of her in the deck, because I think she's good. I think she's real good. So I do kind of want to get a foil copy of her. So yeah, that's the new version of my Thief Sword. I really like the new additions. Not a ton of new additions, but I do like the couple additions that I've made to this deck since the previous iteration. So yeah, Thief Sword. All right, and the last 2 decks are Dragoncraft. These decks also got like just a couple upgrades here and there, not too much. This first one is actually our Disdain Dragon deck, or Galmu deck, however you would like to put it. And essentially, we saw her before if you looked at the Idolmaster section of this video, but Fumika Sajisawa is just so insanely good, and so we are adding her to this deck. I also added in 3 Fina. So the difference between this deck and the previous one is Fumiko and Fina. And essentially everything else is literally the same as I was running before, except I think, did I add another... One of these decks I added another Forte. It might be the next one, but I added another Evo Forte. So before I was running only 2 in the Evo deck, and I think I upped it to 3 in one of these. Yeah, well, maybe in both of them. So I am running 3 Evo Fortes now, just because I think I removed... Oh yeah, I removed Dragon Summoner from both decks, actually. Not a big fan of that card, and Igni really convinced me of how it's not that great. So, yeah, we're running the... I took them out, so I needed another more Evo cards, and I was just like, yeah, let's just jam more Forte. Like, Forte is great. So this deck is your Disdain deck, right? It's the deck that I also get to use my gorgeous Phylene on, but it's a Disdain deck that also uses Prime Dragon Keeper, just like my previous version. So we basically have a bunch of like low drops to trigger PDK, including a lot of our Disdain cards, like our Apostle of Disdain, Servant of Disdain, Disciple. All these are great. Disciple is just an absolutely fantastic card. And once again, if you like the full breakdown of how this deck works, definitely check out the previous video where we go really deep into the Disdain deck itself. But importantly, I added some Finas here. So once again, Fina's really good in this current meta. She's really good at killing 1-drops, and we have some really important 1-drops to get ourselves, like Phylene. We could technically get our Bellringer Angel as well, or also our Disciple of Disdain, which is incredibly important. So Fina has a lot of hits in this deck, and she's just really, really good in general. And then, once again, we added in our Fumika. And so Fumika, it's a 7-drop 4/4, and we can search our deck for a 3-drop follower and a 1-drop follower, and you put them into play. We don't get the extra bonus here because we're not getting any IDOLMASTER followers, but just being able to go grab a 3-drop and a 1-drop is super good. Once again, the 1-drops include Phylene. Our 3-drops are like PDK. We can get Draconeer. For 1-drops, we can get Bellringer Angel. We can get Apostle of Disdain, and we can also get our Disciple of Disdain. So we actually have a lot of options that we can get, and you know, depending on your situation, you might get something up, you know, rather than something else. So getting Phylene is also fantastic because if you're playing at 7 play points, you have Overflow, so you can immediately use her Overflow effect, which is great. You can also grab a Disciple of Disdain if you really need your Disciple of Disdain. You can even grab like a Disciple of Disdain and Apostle, and they just kind of like immediately come into play, and you can do all of that. You can also grab a Draconeer, or you can even just do like some sort of PDK play as well. So yeah, Fumika is just really, really good. This card is like kind of cracked. And then other than that, you know, it's the Disdain Dragon stuff. We have our Fortes to just kill our opponent. We have our Galmia to get that value and deal some direct damage. And yeah, Disdain Dragon, as well as, you know, get your White Frost Whispers and all that good stuff. So yeah, I think this is kind of like the ultimate version of this deck. And, you know, a version of this deck ended up winning the Grand Showdown LA. So that's pretty cool. This is a deck that's definitely on a lot of people's radars right now. And for upgrades, like I said, I think Fumika is just kind of like the main one from the IDOLMASTER set. Yeah. And the final deck today is my, I guess you can just call it my Garyu Dragon deck. It's an interesting one. It's an interesting deck. And this one, once again, didn't get too many upgrades for this set, but I did add a couple that I kind of want to play around with. So I added in Akari Sujino, and I also added in 2 Israfil because I feel like we're going to be ramping. The rest of the deck is the same as before. We have Phylenes, we have Bellringer Angels, Draconeer. There's a lot of just, you play all these cards in your dragon decks. We have our 3 Fortes. I still like the Electro-Magical Rhino with Garyu, which I think is just funny. Our 1 Shenlong, Jadelong Tactician, which also is just really good with Garyu. And then, of course, the namesake of the deck, Garyu himself, which is, he, on Fanfare draws a card, and then while it's on our field, all our dragon followers have ward. And then when you Evo him, you can basically just drop another dude. When you Evo him, you, where's my Evo Garyus? Here we go. When you Evo him, you summon a dragon follower that costs 5 or less from your hand, which includes the new card that we are adding in. And then while this is on the field, all of our other dragon followers have ward. So, yep. And then once again, we added in Israfil, so we are adding in a Evo Israfil as well. So, yep, there's the Garyu, and then we have Dragon Emissary to kind of like, you know, get some cards. It only lets us get dragon cards that cost at least 5 play points, so we can't get our new drop, which is Apple. Can't get our Apple Girl, which is kind of a bummer, but we can get our Rhinos, which are really funny. And then we have Blazing Breath for removal, Conflagration for board wipe removal. This is really good in the meta because there's a lot of just swarm decks with IDOLMASTER. White Frost Whisper, just really good with Phylene, obviously. And then, of course, our 3 of Dragon Oracle, because we do ramp bit. I do want to mention the Electro-Magical Rhino, because this card's wild. It's a 0/7 with Storm, and on Fanfare you give it +3 attack, and then you take the top 4 cards of your deck and put them in your cemetery, and if one of those cards was an Electro-Magical Rhino, you do it again. So you get another +3 attack, and then you do it again. And on Last Words, you take any cards named Electro-Magical Rhino from your cemetery, including it when it dies, and you put them all back into your deck. So yeah, the Rhino is really funny. It can deal a bunch of storm damage, and it's a great card to put into play for free off of Garyu. So yeah, so let's talk about the new cards that we added in. So easy include is Israfil. Like I mentioned, for the Abyss, Israfil is a really good card in the current meta, just because she heals you and she deals damage to the enemy board, right? On strike, she deals 3 damage to each enemy follower on the field. And then on the Evo version, she will deal 5 damage to every enemy follower on the field. So pretty good. Then she becomes a 10/10. She's also just really slow, but this deck has ramp, and we have ways to ramp even more with our lovely new lady here. So yeah, I added in the 2 Esrafils just to do more big dragony things, right? And so I don't think it's too bad here. It's probably better in the Abyss deck where you kind of just reanimate her, but I think she's pretty good in like this style of deck as well. And then finally, we have Apple Girl. We have Akari Sujino. So she is a 4-drop, 4/5 with ward, good stats. And then on Fanfare, you heal 3. So those are just good stats in general. And then if you have 10 max play points, you deal 3 damage to each enemy leader. And then also, whenever she takes at least 5 damage, you increase your maximum play points by 5. So she's really good. She sticks around, is really annoying, gums up the board, heals you, and then also she can ramp you if your opponent tries to kill her, which is great. So yeah, that's the updated version of the Garyu deck. It's pretty much the same like a lot of the other decks, but yeah, just trying out some new IDOLMASTER stuff that I think is pretty good. And finally, we have our 2 honorable mentions that I mentioned at the top of this show, however long ago that was, probably a little while. These are always pretty long, but we have Hunter Forest and Egg Haven. And these decks I didn't include in today's video because they're actually literally the same. I did not upgrade these or alter any of the cards at all from the previous video. So if you want to see, you know, my Hunter Forest list, which I really like this Hunter Forest list, please go check out the previous video. It's literally the exact same. This deck does get new cards in future sets, so we will be upgrading this at some point. Just not right now. So keeping that one just, you know, here. It's still pretty good. I like it quite a bit. I think the Fairy Forest deck is better though. And then of course we have Egg Haven, which has been a constant monster for quite a while now, actually. And well, similarly, I didn't really put any new cards into this deck, right? It's literally the exact same list as I was running in the last video with the good old Bob Katha here. And so if you want to run this deck, I still think it's like a viable deck. You can definitely run this deck, but it will get more support in the future as well. So this is one of the decks that, you know what, there's no real harm to putting this together or keeping it together if you already have it, because it's not like you're going to be running these Alices in another deck, right? So you can just kind of like keep it around, and you know, bust it back out when it gets good again. So yeah, Egg Haven. Whew! Thank you so much for watching. These are always very, very long. I really appreciate everyone who checks these out. Let me know what you are playing in this current meta, and stay tuned for some gameplay of these decks. Let me know what you would like to see in the comments down below. We're definitely going to be playing with some of the IDOLMASTER decks, but I'd like to play with some of the other ones too. There's some really fun inclusions into some of these decks, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. I have some plans for some gameplay that might come out either before or after this, and thank you so much. We'll see you next time for more Shadowverse Evolve content. We have, we're going to be doing this all again very, very soon with Verdant Steel, so we'll see you then.